Scott is already taking a side. He's judging your hair.
We are going to be talking about whether your business should or should not take a stand on issues and whether that's good for business, bad for business, neutral.
I'm real excited to talk about it. You know, when I heard it, should you take a stand or remain neutral in your business? You know, I think today there are so many businesses that are taking a stand. And when you look at social media, when you look at how the culture is today, you've got rabid fans on both sides of issues. Is the stand relevant to the business? So are they doing it authentically? Are they doing it out of relevance, or are they doing it out of an agenda? For example, if it's a cosmetics company and they take a stand against certain chemicals or animal testing, that's beautiful, because I think that's really authentic. It's an automaker that's taking a stand on more sustainable or environmentally friendly issues. I think that works in authentic and genuine. If it's another company and they just decide to latch on to an issue because they think it's popular, that's agenda-based for me, and I can really see through that. And in that instance, I would think it's better to just remain neutral and kind of stay in your lane and not get involved in something that could have the appearance of just bandwagoning, we'll say.
Explain what it means to take a stand, and especially in light of authenticity.
I 100% think that most businesses should take a stand, and as Eric said, as long as it's relevant to your business. My wife is starting a business growing dahlias, a certain type of flower, and there are thousands of varieties of these flowers. Some of them have been around for hundreds of years. She has found that there are several varieties of them that are going extinct because nobody's growing them anymore. Part of her mission is to find those varieties of flowers and start growing them, planting more of them, and then selling those tubers so other people can plant them to bring those flower varieties back from the edge of extinction. That's a perfect example of something that's on mission with your brand. However, if you are, let's say, a national or international clothing retailer, and you tell everyone about how much you support diversity, and you have people of diverse ethnic backgrounds and men, women, and LGBTQ plus people in all of your commercials and all of your brand advertising, but your board of directors is all stale, male, and pale, that's not something that is aligned with your brand. And virtual signaling is really, really an easy way to get your brand blacklisted, or as they say in the cancel culture, canceled. I also might take the hair off for the rest. It's getting kind
It's a little, it's like, okay, it makes me want to laugh.
That. Roger, let's bring you back into this.
But there was a lot of discussion back when they first started with electric vehicles. Is term they used is, are we just moving the tailpipe? In other words, there's no emissions coming out of the car itself, but manufacturing the batteries and what happens after the battery's life is over. Where do you put it? How do you dispose of it? Are we just moving the environmental impact on this? So for me, that's a really good example of, car companies saying, we're going to go all electric by the end of whatever year that it is, because we think it's going to address the issue with environment. Looking at the issue of moving the tailpipe, is that really authentic? Are they saying, yes, we're going to limit our fossil fuels, we're going to limit the emissions into the air, we're going to make everything electric, but what's the real impact of that? So is it just an agenda to placate people who are out there saying that electric is the way to go? Or is it really genuine? Do they really believe that they're making an impact and making a difference by switching us from reliance on fossil fuels?
It's very difficult for big organizations to make those kinds of changes. There's so many things that are institutionalized in the way that they source materials, in the type of vendors that they choose, even down to their employee handbook. Those are things that are very difficult to change when you're a large organization.
If your business is a personal brand, you are the business. Like Holly's business is Coach Holly Jackson. It's not PepsiCo. Holly can't really separate her personal identity from her business because her identity is her business. Your branding can be kind of the light version of you, right? But if you're really going to do it, you should go all in. That's my personal opinion.
But I think what we're lacking in our society and even in our culture today is people being able to hold what I call neutral space. And so you can still stand for something, but holding neutral space is something that's really missing so much because things are so polarized. It's going to require holding neutral space, which means not holding judgment, not having an agenda, and not having expectations. And that is really difficult to do. Able to hold neutral space, especially if you're in a service-based industry, you're coaching, you're in the healing arts, you are holding a wellness practice, you have a mastermind, you're building a community. The only way that those services and those clients and those communities will thrive is if they feel safe. And the only way they'll feel safe is by providing a neutral, safe space where they can come with their opinions, with their thoughts, and share that with people that might have differing views and still be able to hear that. There are certain situations where I believe that you have to take a stance. If you're building a community, there are certain things that you want to make sure you're preventing so that you can create that neutral space. You don't want people that are not able to follow those rules. I'm sure you're going to have certain rules around wanting action takers or whatever it is, the vibe of your community you're creating. And in particular, if you're a movement leader, you have to hold a stance. Like if you're in a nonprofit space and you have a mission that's movement-based, you have to take a stance, and that stance needs to be aligned. So much like what Eric and Matt shared, there are certain situations and businesses or movements where you must take a stance because that is aligned with your business and your mission, and it's essential to succeed.
Being consistent would be important. So how should we address whether you do or you don't relative to people that are looking at all the components within your business?
There are ways to remain neutral, and I've been put in positions quite frequently when being interviewed on podcasts during polarized times where they try to get you to take a stance. So because my background is political science, for me, I really am very neutral on things when it comes to things that are really heightened in culture and they're really polarized in the moment. I think it can be very dangerous to get involved in that.
Yeah, so all businesses should have some sort of disaster planning process. And a PR disaster certainly falls into that. And we're going to go back to Eric because I want to get your final thoughts on this.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting because I really agree with what Matt was just saying there, and it brought up a couple things. A couple of things that we learn in marketing that would be like marketing 101. One is there's riches in the niches. The more that you have a targeted audience, the better that you do. And you're not really casting a wide net. And I'm talking about smaller businesses, kind of businesses, not the big, Coca-Colas of the world that have a mass appeal. But, coaches, individuals, small businesses, mom and pop, you're typically catering to a target audience. And the more targeted you are, the better you're going to do. So like Matt was just saying, if you upset a certain number of people, they're probably not your customer anyway. And I had, a marketing guy, big marketing guy tell me one time, if you're not pissing people off regularly, if you don't have haters, you're not doing your job and you're not marketing hard enough. If I'm looking at pros and cons, I'm looking at far more pros into taking a stance, as long as, like we said at the beginning, it's authentic, it's genuine, it's relevant to what you're doing and the people that you serve, rather than doing it from agenda, like I'm going to jump on this bandwagon and just see if I can grab some press from it. So for me, Scott, those are my final words.
I love it. And we're going to go with Matt, and then we're going to let Holly come back with the final closing statement. Matt, give us your closing statement.
I know a real estate agent in Portland who is very far left wing. She is in favor of pretty much everything that you can think of on the liberal agenda. She puts out all of her media, all of her marketing and everything following all of the causes that go along with having that political stance. And she's 100% upfront about it to everyone. Her business is gangbusters, right? And she's just been growing ever since she started doing that. The first couple of years when she wasn't, and she was kind of being neutral about everything, she didn't do very well, right? And focusing down and not being what Holly calls a nicheless Nelly is how she got out of kind of the doldrums of being just another real estate agent. Agree with that or not, doesn't matter. What matters is that she took a stand, she stuck to it, and it worked.
I am going to revisit this whole niche thing because you can have a niche without taking an extreme stand. If you are really progressive and that's a huge part of your identity and you want to go after that, awesome, good for you. But for a lot of business owners, especially right now with this cancel culture in the US, that's very dangerous. And if you're a small business owner and you hit the wrong chord because you go the wrong direction, you can lose clients. I have seen specific examples of that. This is a very nuanced conversation on where you take a stance. Like for me, I'm not going to work with a client that can't get out of their comfort zone. So I'm taking a stance on that. If you're not going to take action, there's no use in signing up for a coaching program with me. Yes, define your niche, be specific, dispel people that are not the right clients, but do it in a thoughtful way that's not going to disrupt the trustworthiness and credibility of your business as the owner.
All right. So we have heard the arguments for and against taking a stand, not taking a stand. Eric, thank you for joining us today. Today's winner is whether you take a stand or you don't take a stand in your business, it is important. You cannot separate who you are. You should take a stand. 4 things that are relevant to your business. Congratulations, Matt. Holly, you put up a great battle.
This is the argument that I've had outside of the show. Actually, leading up to this episode, I've had at least a dozen conversations about this topic because as soon as I bring up what was going to be on the show, everybody's like, well, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And everybody starts talking about it, right? So it's amazing. It just doesn't come up in some industries and some decisions. But every marketing person on the planet will tell you consumers buy with brands that align with their values. But it's not always the case, right? It's another one of those, it depends. But I'm still very glad that I won today.
All right,
That's a wrap.
Eric, thanks for being on today, and thanks for agreeing with my position.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for arguing my position, Matt. I appreciate that.
That's right. Right. For the positions that we arbitrarily chose between the two of us.
Flip of a coin.